There is a moment between your inhale and exhale where the entire universe holds its breath with you. In this sacred pause, you find yourself standing at the threshold of two worlds, the world where fear has been your constant companion, and the world where possibility stretches like an infinite ocean before you. Your breath becomes the bridge between these realms. Each gentle rise and fall of your chest, a quiet invitation to step into something larger than the story you've been telling yourself tonight. As you settle into the soft embrace of this moment, you begin to sense something profound happening within the quantum field of your own consciousness. This field, invisible, yet more real than anything you can touch, responds not to your struggles against fear, but to your willingness to be present with it. The observer within you, that quiet witness who has always been watching, begins to stir with a recognition that changes everything. You see, your nervous system has been speaking to you in the ancient language of sensation, the primordial tongue that existed long before words were born. Every flutter of anxiety, every clench of worry, every wave of terror that has moved through your body has been a message, not a malfunction, but a communication from the deepest wells of your being. Your nervous system is not your enemy. It is the wise messenger that has kept you alive through every storm, every uncertainty, every moment when the ground beneath your feet seemed to disappear. As you breathe now, you can feel this messenger settling, recognizing that in this moment, in this sacred pause, you are safe. The hypervigilance that once served you, the constant scanning for danger that has exhausted your spirit, begins to soften like ice melting in spring. Your body remembers what it means to rest, not in the absence of feeling, but in the presence of deep acceptance. The quantum field that surrounds you is not some distant cosmic phenomena. It is the very fabric of your experience, the invisible web that connects your inner world to the reality you perceive. Every thought, every emotion, every shift in your awareness sends ripples through this field, creating the conditions for what will manifest in your life. Fear has been creating its own patterns in this field, contracting your possibilities, narrowing your vision to the size of your wounds. But here, in this gentle pause between worlds, you discover something that fear never wanted you to know. You are not at the mercy of your terror. You are the observer who can watch fear arise and pass like weather across the sky of your consciousness. This observer, this witnessing presence that you are, has the power to transform your relationship with fear from one of slavery to one of sacred partnership. Feel how your body begins to remember its natural intelligence as you sink deeper into this knowing. Your heart, that electromagnetic powerhouse generating an energy field thousands of times stronger than your brain, begins to establish its own rhythm of coherence. This is not something you must force or create, it is something you allow, something you return to like a river finding its way back to the sea. The dance between fear and possibility that has been raging within you doesn't need to end tonight. It needs to find its natural rhythm, its organic flow. Fear carries information about what matters to you, about the territories of your heart that feel most vulnerable, most precious. When you try to eliminate fear, you eliminate the very sensitivity that makes love possible. When you learn to dance with fear, you discover that it can become the fuel for your deepest transformations. Your nervous system begins to recognize that survival and growth are not opposites, but dance partners. The same energy that once created panic can be transformed into the power that propels you toward your dreams. This is not positive thinking or spiritual bypassing. This is the recognition that you are an energetic being living in an energetic universe, and you have more influence over your experience than you ever imagined. As you rest in this awareness, you can feel the quantum events happening within your neural networks, the microscopic shifts that are rewiring your brain with each conscious breath. Neuroplasticity is not just a scientific concept. It is the living reality of your moment-to-moment experience. Every time you choose presence over panic, every time you choose curiosity over conclusion, you are literally reshaping the landscape of your mind. The observer within you grows stronger, not through effort, but through recognition. You begin to see that you are not your thoughts about fear, not your stories about what might happen, not your memories of what has been. You are the spacious awareness in which all of these experiences arise and pass away. This awareness is unshakable, not because it is hard or defended, but because it is vast enough to hold everything. Tonight, as you hover in this sacred pause between worlds, you don't need to choose between fear and possibility. You can hold both, like a mother holding two children, each one precious, each one deserving of attention. Your fear needs your compassion, not your condemnation. Your possibility needs your courage, not your certainty. And youth observer, the witness, the conscious presence that you rue need only to remember that you are large enough to contain it all. The quantum field responds to your state of being, not your state of trying. As you allow yourself to rest in this knowing, as you give yourself permission to be exactly where you are, while remaining open to where you might go, you begin to understand what alignment really means. It is not about perfection or the absence of fear. It is about the courage to be authentic with your experience, while remaining available to the mystery of what wants to emerge through you. Feel how your body begins to soften into this truth, how your breathing naturally deepens, how the very cells of your being begin to vibrate at the frequency of acceptance. This is not resignation, this is the recognition that you are both human and divine, both limited and limitless, both afraid and infinitely capable of love. What if the very fear that has been your greatest enemy is actually the guardian of your greatest gift? What if your nervous system's hypervigilance is the shadow side of your extraordinary sensitivity? What if the quantum shift you've been seeking is not about transcending your humanity, but about embracing it so completely that you discover the divine within the ordinary, the infinite within the intimate? As you drift deeper into this sacred pause, let these questions dissolve into the silence of your being, not seeking answers, but resting in the mystery itself. For in this space between worlds, in this threshold moment where breath meets possibility, you are exactly where you need to be. Your breath finds its own rhythm now, each inhale drawing you deeper into the quiet spaces between thoughts. Here, in this gentle darkness, you begin to sense something profound about the nature of fear itself, not as your enemy, but as a frequency carrier, broadcasting information your nervous system has been trying to deliver for perhaps much longer than you realize. Feel how your body holds this knowledge, this understanding that every emotion carries its own quantum signature. Fear vibrates at a particular frequency, dense and urgent, while flow moves like water finding its natural course. Your heart, this magnificent electromagnetic generator, thousands of times more powerful than your brain, begins to slow its rhythm as you allow yourself to truly listen to what fear has been trying to tell you. Imagine, if you will, that your personal energy field extends beyond the boundaries of your physical form. Scientists speak of quantum fields, invisible matrices of possibility that respond to observation, to intention, to the very quality of your attention. Your fear creates ripples in this field, interference patterns that disrupt the natural coherence. between your inner state and the reality that unfolds around you. But what if fear isn't the problem? What if the problem is how you've been taught to relate to its frequency? As you sink deeper into this contemplation, notice how your nervous system begins to soften. The ancient part of your brain that has been scanning for danger, hypervigilant and exhausted, starts to recognize that in this moment, in this breath, you are safe enough to explore what lies beneath fear's urgent messaging. Fear speaks in the language of survival, but flow speaks in the language of becoming. And somewhere between these two frequencies, your consciousness learns to dance. Not rejecting fear, not drowning in it, but learning to read its information while remaining centered in your own electromagnetic signature. You've felt this before, perhaps in moments when time seemed to slow, when you moved through challenge with an inexplicable grace that surprised even you. These weren't accidents. They were glimpses of what becomes possible when fear transforms from master to messenger, when its frequency becomes information rather than instruction. Your heart field, vast and intelligent, begins to entrain your entire system toward coherence. Scientists call this phenomenon quantum coherence, but you experience it as a deep settling, a return to something you've always known but perhaps forgotten. The quantum entanglement between your inner world and outer reality isn't mystical theory floating in academic spaces. It's the lived experience of this very moment, where your shifting internal state ripples outward into the fabric of possibility itself. Notice how your breath naturally deepens as you contemplate this, how the simple act of recognizing fear as frequency rather than fact begins to create space around its intensity. The stories fear tells about future catastrophes, about past failures, about your inadequacy or unworthiness, these stories vibrate at a particular frequency, but beneath them, waiting with infinite patience, flows the deeper current of your authentic nature. This is where the real work happens, not in the dramatic moments of breakthrough, but in the quiet spaces where you learn to feel the difference between fear's frequency and flow's frequency in your actual body, where you discover that your nervous system can hold both simultaneously without collapsing into reactivity. Your electromagnetic field responds to this recognition, beginning to smooth its own chaotic patterns. The interference that fear creates when it's unconscious starts to resolve into something more coherent, more aligned with the natural rhythms that govern both quantum particles and human hearts. And here's what becomes available in this space: the recognition that fear often carries information about what matters most to you. The intensity of your fear about failure might be pointing toward the depth of your longing to create something meaningful. The fear of rejection might be illuminating just how much you want to belong, to be seen, to be valued for who you truly are. Flow, meanwhile, emerges not from the absence of fear, but from a different relationship to its frequency. Flow happens when you're so present with what is that resistance dissolves, when your attention becomes so absorbed in the unfolding moment that the part of you that generates internal friction simply goes quiet. Your body knows this state intimately. Every cell remembers the coherence of deep sleep, the way all your systems synchronize when consciousness releases its grip on control. But flow isn't sleep. Flow is consciousness awake to itself, moving through the world with the same effortless precision that governs the dance of electrons around atomic nuclei. As you rest here, feel how your heart field expands with each breath. Scientists measure this electromagnetic signature extending several feet beyond your physical form. But in moments of deep coherence, it feels limitless. This is your quantum frequency. your unique signature in the field of infinite possibility. Fear contracts this field, drawing it inward in preparation for defense or escape. Flow expands it, allowing your electromagnetic signature to harmonize with the larger rhythms of life moving through you. Neither state is wrong. Both carry essential information about your relationship to existence itself. But perhaps the most profound recognition available to you right now is this: you are not at the mercy of these frequencies. You are the observer who can witness them, the consciousness that can choose which frequency to amplify through the quality of your attention. The observer effect in quantum physics describes how the act of observation itself influences the behavior of particles, but you don't need a laboratory to experience this phenomenon. Your consciousness, observing the interplay between fear and flow within your own system, begins to influence their very nature. When you observe fear with compassion rather than resistance, its frequency begins to shift. The urgency softens. The contraction eases. The information it carries becomes accessible without the overwhelming intensity that once made it unbearable to feel. When you observe flow with appreciation rather than grasping, it deepens. The effortlessness expands. The coherence strengthens. You begin to recognize flow not as a peak experience to be chased, but as the natural state that emerges when internal friction dissolves. Your nervous system, wise beyond your conscious understanding, begins to integrate these frequencies in new ways. The quantum entanglement between your inner state and outer reality becomes more than concept. It becomes lived experience, moment by moment, breath by breath. The fear that once felt like static interference in your personal energy field begins to resolve into clarity. The flow that once seemed elusive becomes as natural as breathing. And in the space between these frequencies, something entirely new emerges. Not the absence of fear, but the presence of something larger than fear. Not the pursuit of flow, but the recognition that you are the awareness within which all frequencies arise and pass away. Your heart field, coherent and calm, broadcasts this new understanding into the quantum field of possibility. And somewhere in the vast intelligence that connects all things, reality itself responds to your shifted frequency. What if the interference patterns you've been experiencing aren't problems to be solved, but information to be received? What if the very frequencies that have felt like obstacles are actually invitations to remember who you are beneath? The stories you've been telling yourself about limitation. Rest here in this question, letting it settle into your body like moonlight on still water. Let your electromagnetic signature find its natural rhythm, coherent and calm, broadcasting the frequency of your authentic nature into the infinite field of becoming. What wants to emerge when fear becomes information and flow becomes your natural state. Close your eyes and breathe. ... Just breathe. Tonight, we step into the most sacred laboratory that has ever existed, the quantum field of your own consciousness. Here, in this liminal space between waking and sleeping, you begin to understand that you are not merely a passive recipient of reality, but its most fundamental architect. Feel your body settling into stillness. Your nervous system, which has carried so much vigilance throughout the day, begins to recognize that this moment requires nothing from you except presence. The observer affects this profound quantum principle whispers through your awareness like a gentle tide. It tells you that reality remains fluid, suspended in infinite possibility, until the moment your consciousness touches it with attention. But what does it mean to truly observe? not with the analytical mind that dissects and judges, but with the quantum awareness that simply witnesses. Your breath becomes the perfect teacher. Watch how it flows in and out without your effort, without your control. This is the observer's gentle revolution, not the violent overthrow of circumstances, but the tender recognition that your attention itself is the bridge between the infinite field of potential and the singular experience of this moment. Feel into your body now. Notice how years of unconscious patterns have created tension in your shoulders, holding in your chest, guardedness in your belly. These are not mistakes to fix, but quantum information energy that has been frozen in time, waiting for the gentle observer to simply notice without trying to change anything. The revolution begins here. In this radical act of witnessing without agenda, your nervous system has been operating from ancient survival programming, scanning for threats that exist, more in memory than in this present moment. But as you settle deeper into stillness, something extraordinary happens. The quantum mind, that aspect of your consciousness that exists beyond the limitations of linear thinking, begins to recognize that safety is not something you must create or fight for. It is the natural state that emerges when the observer simply observes. Think of a wave in the ocean before it crashes. It exists in a state of pure potential, neither formed nor formless, simply being. This is how your reality exists, in every moment as infinite waves of possibility, waiting for your conscious attention to collapse them into experience. The anxious mind believes it must control which wave crashes, but the observer knows that simply watching with love transforms the very nature of what emerges. Your emotional body holds so much wisdom. Every feeling that has ever moved through you, the joy and the sorrow, the fear and the love, these are all quantum events, frequencies in the field of your consciousness. The observer doesn't judge these frequencies as good or bad, but recognizes them as information, as energy in motion that wants to be witnessed and integrated. Breathe into your heart now. Feel how it has been protecting itself, creating walls around tender places where you were hurt or disappointed. The observer's gentle revolution doesn't tear down these walls with force, but loves them so completely that they transform naturally, like ice melting in the warmth of spring sun. This is quantum frequency, the vibration of pure acceptance that reorganizes all lower frequencies simply through its presence. Your subconscious mind, that vast underwater realm of your psyche, has been running programs written in childhood, in trauma, in moments when you decided who you needed to be to survive. But the quantum observer recognizes that these programs are not fixed truths. They are simply patterns of energy that have been repeated so often they feel solid. Tonight, in this space of gentle witnessing, you offer your subconscious a new possibility, the safety to be seen without needing to perform. Notice how your breath deepens naturally as you stop trying to control your experience. This is the observer effect in action, your conscious attention creating space for your nervous system to discharge old patterns of vigilance and protection. You are not doing this. You are simply providing the loving awareness in which it can happen. The revolution is subtle, like dawn breaking across a quiet lake. Your identity, all the roles you've played, the masks you've worn, the stories you've told yourself about who you are, these begin to loosen in the field of pure observation. You realize that beneath all the strategies and defenses, there is something unshakable, the consciousness that observes it all. Feel into the quantum field that surrounds and interpenetrates your body. It responds to your attention like a living thing, like a garden that blooms under loving care. The observer's gentle revolution happens. Here, in the recognition that you are not separate from the field of infinite possibility, you are the field, expressing itself through the beautiful, temporary form of your human experience. Your nervous system begins to remember its natural state of coherence. The scattered energy of anxiety and overwhelm gathers itself into a centered frequency, like iron filings aligning in a magnetic field. This is quantum coherence, the state where your heart, mind, and body operate in harmony, creating a unified field of presence that transforms everything it touches. Notice how thoughts arise and dissolve in your awareness like clouds in an empty sky. The observer doesn't identify with these thoughts, but recognizes them as temporary formations in the infinite space of consciousness. This is the ultimate revolution, not changing what appears, but recognizing the unchanging awareness in which all experience unfolds. Your body knows how to heal itself when given the gift of non-judgmental attention. Each cell becomes a quantum observer, witnessing and releasing patterns of tension and protection that are no longer needed. The revolution spreads through your entire being, gentle and thorough, transforming not through force but through love. As you drift closer to sleep, let yourself rest in the profound simplicity of being the observer. You are not the content of your experience. You are the space in which all experience arises and dissolves. This is the quantum shift that happens naturally when you stop trying to be anything other than what you are: pure, aware, loving consciousness. The observer's gentle revolution is complete, not when everything changes, but when you recognize that the awareness watching it all was never touched by any of it. In this recognition, you find the peace that has always been here, waiting patiently for you to notice it. Tomorrow will bring new experiences, new challenges, new opportunities to practice this gentle art of observation. But tonight, rest in the profound truth that you are the quantum field of infinite possibility, dreaming itself into form through the beautiful vehicle of your human experience. What if the revolution you've been waiting for was never about changing the world, but about recognizing the unchanging love that you already are? Close your eyes and feel the weight of this moment settling into your bones. There is a storm moving through you right now. Perhaps it arrived as anxiety this morning, or maybe it's been building for weeks, a slow accumulation of unspoken fears and unprocessed emotions. Your nervous system recognizes this weather pattern, the way lightning builds in your chest before you even know thunder is coming. But here's what your body already knows. Even when your mind forgets, every storm carries within it the blueprint of its own stillness. Every fear wave that crashes through your system contains, at its very core, the seeds of its own dissolution. You don't need to stop the weather. You need to find the eye of the hurricane. Breathe with me now, not to calm the storm, but to discover where you've always been whole, even in the midst of chaos. Your breath moves through you like wind through an ancient forest, sometimes gentle, sometimes fierce, but always part of the same vast system that knows exactly how to restore balance. The quantum field that holds you doesn't respond to your resistance. It responds to your willingness to be present with whatever is arising. When you try to push away the storm, you create a kind of energetic friction that keeps the disturbance alive. But when you breathe into the center of what you're feeling, something extraordinary happens. The field begins to reorganize itself around your presence. Feel this now. Notice how the storm in your chest has edges, boundaries, a beginning and an end. It's not who you are, it's whether moving through who you are. Your awareness is the sky that holds all storms, the vast open space that remains untroubled by even the most violent winds. This is where the observer effect becomes more than quantum theory. It becomes a lived experience. Your conscious attention doesn't just witness the storm, it creates the conditions for the storm to transform, not by force, not by denial, but by the simple act of being fully present with what is. Your nervous system has been learning to be afraid of its own aliveness. Every time you felt too much, needed too much, or expressed too much, some part of you decided it was safer to shut down than to risk being seen in your full intensity. But the storm you're feeling now, it's not your enemy. It's your life force asking to be felt, to be welcomed, to be integrated. Breathe into your belly, that ancient place where your body knows how to process the impossible. Feel how your breath creates space, not empty space, but fertile space. The kind of openness that allows transformation to occur naturally. This is the quantum coherence your system is always trying to return to. The state where all parts of you remember they're part of the same whole. The storm in your chest begins to shift as you breathe, not because you're controlling it, but because you're finally allowing it to move through you the way weather moves through sky. Your heart rate starts to slow, not from effort, but from recognition. You remember that you are both the wave and the ocean, the disturbance and the peace. This is what alignment really means. Not the absence of chaos, but the presence of something vast enough to hold all of your weather patterns. When you stop trying to be calm and start being present, the quantum field begins to reorganize around your truth. Your frequency shifts from resistance to receptivity, from contraction to expansion. Feel how the storm carries intelligence, how every fear wave knows exactly where it needs to go to be healed. Your body is not broken or wrong for feeling this intensity. It's awake, alive, responsive to the subtle energies that most people never learn to sense. The storm is your sensitivity trying to recalibrate, your nervous system attempting to process layers of experience that go deeper than words. As you breathe, notice how the edges of the storm begin to soften, not disappearing, but integrating. The lightning in your chest doesn't need to be extinguished. That needs to be welcomed as life force, as the raw energy of your being that has been waiting for permission to flow freely. This is the paradox of healing. The more you allow yourself to feel the storm, the more you discover the stillness that has always been there. The eye of the hurricane isn't separate from the storm, it's the center around which all the movement organizes itself. You are that center. You have always been that center. Your breath moves deeper now, creating waves of coherence that ripple through your entire system. Each exhale releases another layer of resistance, another belief that you need to be different from who you are. Each inhale draws in the quantum frequency of your true nature, the part of you that knows how to dance with chaos without losing your center. The storm begins to feel less like something happening to you and more like something happening through you. Your body remembers its natural rhythm, the way it can hold intensity without breaking, the way it can feel deeply without drowning. This is your nervous system returning to its natural state of regulated aliveness. Feel how the storm and the stillness are not opposites, but dance partners. The movement needs the stillness to have meaning, and the stillness needs the movement to stay alive. You are not trying to get rid of one to find the other. You are learning to be the space in which both can coexist. Your heart rate continues to slow, but not from suppression, from integration, from the recognition that you are vast enough to hold all of your weather patterns. spacious enough to let every emotion move through you without losing yourself in the process. This is what it means to be human and quantum at the same time too. Be both finite and infinite, both individual and universal. The storm in your chest begins to feel like music now, a symphony of sensation that your body knows how to conduct. Each breath is a note, each heartbeat a rhythm, each feeling a movement in the larger composition of your being. You are not the victim of your emotions. You are the conscious participant in their transformation. As the storm settles into stillness, you realize that alignment was never about achieving a perfect state. It was about discovering your capacity to be present with whatever is arising. The quantum field doesn't reward perfection, it responds to authenticity, to your willingness to be fully human in all your complexity. Your breath moves through you, like gentle waves now, each exhale carrying away another layer of the belief that you need to be different from who you are. Each inhale brings you deeper into the recognition that you are both the storm and the stillness, the chaos and the peace, the question and the answer. The storm hasn't disappeared, has transformed. It has become part of the larger rhythm of your being, integrated into the wholeness that you have always been. Your nervous system settles into its natural state of alert relaxation, present and peaceful, alive and at rest, and as you drift to sleep, you carry with you this knowing that every storm that moves through you is an invitation to discover the vastness of who you are. That alignment isn't a destination, but a way of being, a continuous return to the truth that you are both the wave and the ocean, the disturbance and the peace in the quiet space between your breaths. What if the storm was never trying to disturb your peace, but to awaken you to the peace that can hold any storm? Long before your mind learned to weave thoughts into words, your body was already writing poetry in the language of sensation. This ancient script flows through your veins, whispers through you. Your veins whispers through your nerve endings and speaks in the timeless dialect of survival that has echoed through countless generations. Tonight, as you settle into the gentle embrace of darkness, you begin to remember this primordial conversation that has been unfolding within you since your very first breath. Your nervous system is the keeper of an ancient library, its pages written not in ink but in electrical impulses, not in words but in the wisdom of when to run, when to rest, when to reach toward love, and when to retreat into protection. This system within you carries the cellular memories of ancestors who faced genuine threats, the rustle of leaves that might hide danger, the shadow that could mean death, the subtle shift in air pressure that warned of approaching storms. But here, in this moment of profound stillness, you begin to sense how this ancient wisdom sometimes speaks the wrong language for your modern world. The same neural pathways that once mobilized your ancestors to escape the claws of predators now activate in response to an overflowing inbox, a difficult conversation, or the simple act of stepping into the mysterious territory of your own becoming. Your nervous system, in its fierce devotion to keeping you alive, cannot distinguish between the growl of a saber-toothed tiger and the growl of your own self-doubt. Feel how your body holds this knowing as you breathe into the present moment. Your sympathetic nervous system, that vigilant guardian of action and alertness, has been working overtime in a world that presents 1,000 phantom threats each day. The ping of a notification triggers the same response as footsteps behind you in a dark alley. The thought of change activates the same alarm bells as the approach of actual danger. Your nervous system, faithful servant that it is, responds to each stimulus with the same urgent message alert. Prepari, survive. This is not a malfunction, this is love in its most primitive form. Your nervous system loves you so fiercely that it would rather create 100 false alarms than miss one real threat. It would rather keep you in a state of perpetual readiness than risk your destruction. But tonight, as you sink deeper into the safety of this moment, you can offer your nervous system something it has been desperately craving. The permission to remember what peace feels like. Your parasympathetic nervous system, the wise counterpart to your inner alarm system, speaks in an entirely different language. It whispers in the slowing of your heart rate, the deepening of your breath, the gentle release of tension from muscles that have been holding vigilance like a sacred duty. This is the language of restoration, of healing, of the profound intelligence that knows when it is safe to let your guard down and remember what it means to simply exist without agenda. As you attune to this gentler voice within your body, you begin to understand the quantum nature of what is happening within your neural networks. Every conscious breath you take sends ripples through the electromagnetic field of your heart, creating coherence patterns that your brain recognizes as safety. These are not metaphors. These are measurable quantum events happening within your body right now, microscopic shifts that are literally reshaping your reality from the inside out. Your vagus nerve, that wandering messenger that connects your brain to your heart to your gut to your deepest knowing, begins to carry different information. Instead of the sharp staccato pulses of alarm, it transmits the slow rhythmic waves of presence. This shift is not something you create through effort, it is something you allow through acceptance, something you invite through compassion for the part of you that has been working so tirelessly to keep you safe. The wisdom of your nervous system reveals itself when you learn to listen without judgment, to feel without immediately trying to fix or change. That flutter in your chest may not be anxiety, may be excitement preparing to unfold. That tightness in your throat may not be fear, it may be your voice preparing to speak a truth you've never dared to utter. Your nervous system speaks in sensations before your mind translates those sensations into stories. And sometimes the stories your mind creates are far more frightening than the original message. Tonight, you practice the sacred art of feeling without becoming. You feel the sensation of fear without becoming a fearful person. You feel the flutter of uncertainty without becoming someone who is defined by their doubts. You feel the grip of old patterns without becoming trapped by them. This is the difference between having an experience and being consumed by it, between hosting an emotion and being taken hostage by it. Your nervous system begins to recognize this distinction, this spaciousness between the sensation and your identity. In this space, the quantum events of your neural networks can unfold with greater coherence. Neurons that fire together wire together, and as you practice this gentle witnessing, you are literally creating new pathways of response. The neural networks that once defaulted to hypervigilance begin to remember other possibilities: curiosity, wonder, trust, the courage to remain open even in uncertainty. The ancient wisdom of your nervous system includes not just the capacity for survival but the capacity for thriving. Your body knows how to move from defense to growth, from protection to creativity, from survival to service. But it needs to feel safe enough to make this transition. It needs to trust that you will not abandon it in its vulnerability, that you will not shame it for its sensitivity, that you will honor the intelligence that has carried you through every storm. As you rest in this understanding, you can feel your nervous system beginning to recalibrate. The quantum frequency of your cells starts to shift from the high-pitched urgency of constant alertness to the deeper, more sustainable rhythm of conscious presence. This is not the absence of feeling, this is the presence of feeling held within. The vast container of awareness. Your body begins to remember what it knew before fear became a constant companion, that you are designed not just to survive, but to flourish, not just to endure, but to create, not just to protect, but to love with. Wild abandon. The same nervous system that can generate terror can also generate ecstasy. The same neural networks that create anxiety can also create awe. The same electromagnetic field that produces panic can also produce the most profound peace. This is the quantum shift that happens not through force, but through recognition, the recognition that your nervous system is not your enemy, but your ally, not your prison, but your teacher, not your limitation, but your portal to deeper wisdom. As you breathe into this knowing, you allow your ancient wisdom to speak its deepest truth, that safety is not the absence of danger, but the presence of resilience. That peace is not the absence of feeling, but the presence of unconditional love. For whatever arises, the quantum events happening within your neural networks right now are not random electrical impulses. They are the building blocks of your transformation. Each moment of compassionate awareness rewrites the story your body tells itself about safety and danger, about trust and threat, about the difference between serving your survival and serving your soul. What if your nervous system's exquisite sensitivity is actually a superpower, a gift that allows you to perceive subtle energies and respond to the needs of the world with extraordinary precision? What if the very system that seems to create your suffering is actually the doorway to your greatest contribution? What if learning to trust your nervous system is the same as learning to trust the intelligence of life itself? Rest in these possibilities as your body continues its ancient conversation with wisdom, as your breath continues its timeless dance with mystery, as your nervous system continues its eternal journey from survival to transcendence. Your breath settles into its deepest rhythm now, each exhalation releasing you further into the profound truth that lives in your bones. Every emotion is energy in motion, a current of life force flowing through the sacred vessel of your being. In this gentle darkness, you begin to sense something the ancient alchemists knew, that the very substance of your fear carries within it the seeds of your greatest transformation. Feel how your body holds this knowing, this understanding that nothing in you is waste, nothing is mistake. The fear that contracts your chest, the anxiety that quickens your pulse, the grief that pulls in your belly, all of it is life force temporarily caught in patterns of resistance, waiting for the gentle touch of your conscious awareness to set it free. Imagine, if you will, that you are both the laboratory and the alchemist. Your nervous system, this exquisite network of electrical pathways, becomes the crucible where transformation occurs, not through force or manipulation, but through the simple act of meeting what is with the quality of presence that allows energy to move, to shift, to remember its essential nature. Your heart-brain coherence begins to deepen as you rest in this contemplation. Scientists speak of the heart's electromagnetic field as a communication system more sophisticated than any technology, broadcasting your emotional state into the quantum field of possibility. But you experience it as a gradual warming, a softening, a return to something you've always known but perhaps forgotten how to access. The old alchemists spoke of transforming lead into gold, but they were speaking in metaphor about the very process unfolding within you now. The dense, heavy energy of fear that leaden weight in your chest contains within its very structure the golden essence of awakened life force, not despite its darkness, but because of it. Your body remembers this truth from the cellular level. Every breath you take transforms one substance into another. Oxygen becomes carbon dioxide, nutrients become energy, tension becomes relaxation. The very act of living is a continuous process of alchemical transformation, and your emotions are no exception to this fundamental law. As you allow this recognition to settle deeper, notice how your relationship to intensity begins to shift. The overwhelming sensations that once felt like threats to your survival start to reveal themselves as concentrated life force seeking expression. The terror that once paralyzed you carries within it the same energy that fuels your deepest creativity, your most profound love, your most authentic self-expression. This is the secret the quantum field holds. All energy is neutral until it meets consciousness. Your consciousness, observing the movement of emotional energy within your system, becomes the determining factor in whether that energy becomes creative or destructive, expansive or contractive, wisdom or suffering. Feel how your nervous system begins to reorganize around this understanding. The ancient part of your brain that has been interpreting intensity as danger starts to recognize that you are not being overwhelmed by your emotions, you are being invited to transform them. The sympathetic nervous system, designed for survival, begins to trust that your parasympathetic system can handle the deeper work of integration. Your heart field expands with each breath, creating space for the alchemical process to unfold. This is not the space of spiritual bypassing, of pretending difficult emotions don't exist. This is the space of true transformation, where darkness and light are recognized as complementary aspects of the same essential energy. The quantum shift you are experiencing happens not through the elimination of fear, but through the recognition that fear is life force temporarily forgetting its own nature. Like water that can exist as ice, liquid, or vapor while remaining fundamentally H2O. Your emotional energy can exist in countless forms while remaining essentially the same life force that animates all existence. In this space of deep allowing, you begin to sense how suppression has been the real problem, not the emotions themselves. Every time you pushed down fear, you also pushed down the life force it contained. Every time you rejected anger, you also rejected the passionate fire that fuels your boundaries and your creativity. Every time you numbed sadness, you also numbed the tender vulnerability that allows genuine connection. But here, in this laboratory of consciousness, you learn a different way. You learn to meet the intensity of your emotions with the same quality of presence that a master alchemist brings to their work curious, patient, trusting in the process of transformation itself. Your heart-brain coherence deepens as you discover that emotional transformation is not about changing what you feel, but about changing how you relate to what you feel. The fear remains fear, but your relationship to it transforms from resistance to reception, from contraction to expansion, from suffering to wisdom. This is the alchemy of emotional transformation, not the elimination of difficult emotions, but their integration into a larger coherence. Your nervous system learns to hold both the intensity and the spaciousness, both the contraction and the expansion, both the human vulnerability and the quantum possibility. The quantum field holds space for all of it, to your darkness and your light, your terror and your joy, your confusion and your clarity. Nothing is excluded from this vast intelligence that responds to your shifting relationship to your own emotional landscape. As you transform internally, the field itself begins to reflect back a reality more aligned with your deepest truth. Notice how your breath naturally deepens as you contemplate this. How the simple act of recognizing emotions as energy in motion begins to create actual movement in your body. The stuck places begin to soften. The frozen areas begin to thaw. The contracted spaces begin to expand. This is not a mental understanding, but a lived experience of transformation happening at the cellular level. Your body, wise beyond your conscious comprehension, begins to remember its natural capacity for emotional fluidity. The energy that was once trapped in patterns of fear begins to flow again, seeking its natural expression through the channels of your authentic being. Your heart field, coherent and calm, broadcasts this new understanding into the quantum field of possibility. The electromagnetic signature of your transformed relationship to emotional intensity creates ripples that extend far beyond your physical form, touching the field of potential in ways that invite a reality more aligned with your essential nature. And here's what becomes available in this space of emotional alchemy: the recognition that your capacity to feel deeply is not a liability, but a gift. The intensity that once overwhelmed you becomes the fuel for your greatest creations, your deepest connections, your most profound contributions to the world. The fear that once felt like a burden becomes the concentrated life force that powers your courage. The anger that once felt destructive becomes the passionate fire that fuels your purpose. The sadness that once felt overwhelming becomes the tender vulnerability that allows authentic intimacy. You are not broken and needing to be fixed. You are not too sensitive or too intense. You are a being of profound emotional intelligence learning to trust the alchemical process of transformation that lives at the very heart of existence itself. As you rest in this knowing, feel how your entire system begins to recalibrate around this new understanding. The quantum field responds to your shifted relationship to emotional intensity, creating space for expressions of life force that were previously unavailable, when energy was trapped in patterns of resistance. What wants to emerge when you trust? The alchemical process of emotional transformation. What becomes possible when you recognize intensity as life force seeking its natural expression through the sacred vessel of your being? Breathe deeply and feel yourself settling into this sacred space between day and night. Tonight, we explore one of the most essential arts of conscious living, the delicate dance of staying open to love while maintaining the integrity of your own energy field. Like a skilled musician who knows both when to play and when to rest, you are learning to navigate the quantum flow of connection without losing yourself in the process. Your body holds such wisdom about boundaries. Feel how your skin naturally separates your inner world from the outer environment, yet remains permeable enough to breathe, to feel, to connect. This is the perfect metaphor for healthy energetic boundaries, membranes that protect without imprisoning, that filter without closing off entirely. Your nervous system relaxes as it remembers that protection and openness are not opposites, but partners in the dance of conscious living. Close your eyes and imagine your energy field extending around you like a luminous sphere. This isn't merely visualization. Quantum physics tells us that your electromagnetic field actually extends several feet beyond your physical body, creating an invisible but very real boundary between your inner experience and the world around you. When this field is coherent and clear, it serves as a natural filter, allowing love to flow in while keeping overwhelm at bay. Think of how a skilled gardener tends their plot. They welcome the rain and sunshine while carefully removing the weeds that would drain the soil's nutrients. Your energetic boundaries work the same way. They are not walls built from fear, but conscious filters created from self-love. When you honor your own frequency, you naturally attract experiences that match your vibration while gently deflecting those that would disturb your inner harmony. Your breath becomes your ally in this practice. With each inhale, you can consciously draw in the energy that serves you: love, peace, inspiration, support. With each exhale, you release what is not yours to carry other people's anxiety, the collective heaviness of the world, the emotional residue from challenging interactions. This is the observer effect in action: your conscious attention directing the flow of energy according to your highest good. Notice how different people and situations affect your energy field. Some encounters leave you feeling expanded and alive, while others create a sense of depletion or confusion. Your body is always giving you feedback about what serves your frequency and what drains it. The art lies in learning to trust this inner guidance system without judging others or closing your heart feel into a time when you absorbed someone else's emotional state without realizing it. Perhaps you left a conversation feeling anxious when you had been calm, or found yourself carrying worry that wasn't originally yours. This is what happens when our boundaries become too porous. We begin to lose track of where we end and others begin. But tonight, you remember that sensitivity is a gift, not a burden. When coupled with conscious boundaries, your electromagnetic field naturally knows how to create coherent boundaries. When you are centered in your heart, breathing deeply, and connected to your truth, your energy field becomes like a tuning fork, vibrating at such a clear frequency that it naturally harmonizes beneficial energy while remaining unmoved by dissonance. This is quantum coherence in action: your entire being aligned in service of your highest expression. Imagine your energy field as a wise guardian at the threshold of your inner sanctuary. This guardian doesn't attack or reject, but simply recognizes what belongs and what doesn't. When someone approaches with their own anxiety or anger, the guardian can acknowledge their experience with compassion while maintaining the integrity of your peaceful space. This is the sacred art of empathy without absorption. Your nervous system has been conditioned to believe that being open means being vulnerable to harm. But as you practice conscious boundaries, you discover that true openness requires tremendous strength, the strength to remain connected to your own center while navigating the complex energy of relationships. This is not selfishness. It is the self-love that makes authentic connection possible. Feel how your heart can remain open, even as your energy field maintains its coherent boundaries. Love doesn't require you to take on others' pain or to sacrifice your well-being for their comfort. True love flows from overflow, from the abundance that comes when you honor your own needs alongside your care for others. This is the quantum shift from codependence to conscious interdependence. Your boundaries are not fixed walls, but dynamic, living membranes that can expand or contract based on what each moment requires. With trusted loved ones in safe spaces, you might allow your field to merge and blend, creating the beautiful intimacy of shared energy. In challenging environments, you might need to create firmer boundaries, not from fear but from wisdom. Notice how your body responds as you practice this art. Your shoulders might soften as they release the burden of carrying others' emotions. Your chest might open as your heart recognizes it can love without losing itself. Your belly might relax as your nervous system feels the safety of knowing you can navigate the world without being overwhelmed by its intensity. The art of energetic boundaries includes knowing when to engage and when to withdraw. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to step back from a situation that is draining your life force. Sometimes the most generous act is to refuse to enable someone's dysfunction by absorbing their emotional chaos. This is not abandonment. It is the wisdom to know that you cannot help anyone by depleting yourself. Your energy field responds to your intentions, like a flower responds to sunlight. When you set a clear internal boundary with love and firmness, your electromagnetic field naturally adjusts to support that intention. Others may not consciously understand what has shifted, but they will feel the change in how they relate to you. This is the power of quantum frequency, your internal state, creating external shifts through the field of consciousness. Feel into the freedom that comes with healthy boundaries. You can walk through the world with your heart open, knowing that you have the skills to maintain your own frequency regardless of what swells around you. You can be deeply sensitive without being overwhelmed, compassionate without being codependent, loving without losing yourself in the process. As you prepare for sleep, imagine your energy field settling into its natural state of coherent protection. Like a skilled sailor who knows how to navigate both calm seas and storms, you have learned to adjust your energetic sails according to the conditions around you. Your boundaries become a form of self-care, a way of honoring the precious gift of your consciousness. Your dreams tonight will be influenced by the clarity of your energetic boundaries. When your field is coherent and protected, your subconscious can process the day's experiences without being overwhelmed by external noise. You sleep more deeply, dream more clearly, and wake more refreshed because you have learned to maintain your energetic sovereignty. The art of boundaries is ultimately the art of self-love, not the kind that builds walls, but the kind that creates sacred space for your authentic self to flourish. In honoring your own energy, you give others permission to do the same. In maintaining your frequency, you contribute to the collective healing of our interconnected world. Tomorrow will bring new opportunities to practice this sacred art, but tonight, rest in the profound peace that comes from knowing you can be both open and protected, both loving and boundaried, both connected and sovereign. What if the boundaries you've been afraid to create are actually the very thing that would allow you to love more fully? Settle into this moment and feel the weight of your body against the softness beneath you. Right now, in this very breath, you have the opportunity to quantum jump back to who you've always been, not the person fear taught you to become, but the luminous being that existed before you learned to doubt your own light. This isn't about transformation in the way you might think. You don't need to become someone new, acquire new skills, or fix the broken parts of yourself. The quantum jump back to yourself is about remembering what was never actually lost, only temporarily forgotten beneath layers of conditioning that convinced you that you were separate from the source of your own power. Breathe with me now, and feel how each exhale releases another layer of who you thought you had to be. Your nervous system has been holding the tension of a performance that was never yours to give. Every day, you've been trying to be the version of yourself that would be safe, acceptable, worthy of love. But what if the you that you've been trying to become already exists? What if it's been waiting patiently beneath the surface, like a seed that never stopped knowing it was meant to bloom? Your identity is not the fixed, solid thing your mind believes it to be. It's more like water fluid, adaptable, capable of taking any shape while never losing its essential nature. When you were young, before the world taught you to be afraid of your own vastness, you moved through life with a natural fluidity, quantum jumping from one state of being to another without question or resistance. Feel this fluidity now. Notice how your breath moves through you like a gentle tide, each wave carrying away another belief about who you're supposed to be. Your body knows how to release these old patterns, how to let go of the identities that were never truly yours. This is your nervous system returning to its natural state of openness. where change is not threatening but natural. The quantum jump back to yourself happens in the space between breaths, in the pause between thoughts, in the moment when you stop trying to be anyone other than who you are. It's not a dramatic leap across dimensions, it's a soft settling into the truth that has always been present, waiting for your recognition. Your authentic self is not hiding in some distant future version of you. It's here, now, in the way your heart beats without your permission, in the way your breath flows without your control, in the way your awareness expands naturally when you stop trying to contain it. This is the you that existed before fear whispered that you were not enough, not safe, not worthy of taking up space in this world. As you breathe deeper, feel how your body begins to relax into its natural frequency. This is the vibration of your authentic self, not the high-pitched tension of trying to be perfect, not the low-frequency hum of resignation, but the clear, steady tone of someone who remembers their own wholeness. The conditioning that taught you to be afraid of your own power was never yours to begin with. It was handed down through generations of people who had forgotten their own connection to the infinite, who had learned to survive by making themselves small, predictable, safe. But you don't have to carry these patterns forward. With each breath, you can choose to quantum jump back to the frequency of your true nature. Feel how this shift happens not through force or willpower, but through simple recognition. Like a drop of water remembering it belongs to the ocean, you remember that you belong to something vast and unlimited. Your individual identity doesn't disappear, expands. You realize that you are both the wave and the water, both the expression and the source. This is what alignment truly means. Not the rigid holding of a perfect position, but the fluid dance of consciousness exploring itself through the magnificent instrument of your human experience. When you stop trying to be someone else's version of who you should be, your natural state of coherence returns. Your thoughts, feelings, and actions begin to flow from the same source, creating a harmony that you don't have to manufacture. Your nervous system recognizes this return to authenticity as a homecoming. The chronic tension you've been exhaustion of trying to be someone you're not begins to dissolve. Your body remembers how to move with grace, how to speak with truth, how to exist without apology. The quantum jump back to yourself is happening now, with each breath that carries you deeper into presence. You're not becoming someone new, you're shedding the layers of who you never were. Like a snake releasing its old skin, you're allowing the false identities to fall away, revealing the luminous being that has always been there. Feel how your heart space opens as you breathe. This is where your authentic self lives, not in your mind with its endless stories and strategies, but in the quiet center of your being where love flows without conditions, where wisdom arises without effort, where peace exists without explanation. Your authentic self doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. It doesn't need to earn love, demand respect, or fight for its right to exist. It simply is, radiating its natural frequency like a star that shines not because it has to, but because shining is its nature. As you quantum jump back to yourself, you realize that all the ways you've been trying to improve, fix, or change yourself were based on a fundamental misunderstanding. You air never broken. You were never incomplete. You were never separate from the source of your power. You were simply experiencing amnesia, temporarily forgetting the infinite nature of who you are. This remembering doesn't happen all at once. It unfolds like a flower opening to the sun, each petal a different aspect of your authentic self revealing itself in perfect timing. Your nervous system knows exactly how to orchestrate this unfolding, how to integrate each new layer of self-recognition without overwhelming your human system. Breathe into this integration now. Feel how your body, mind, and spirit begin to align around the truth of who you are. The parts of you that have been fighting, competing, or hiding from each other start to remember that they're all expressions of the same magnificent being. The quantum jump back to yourself is not a destination, but a way of being. It's the continuous choice to return to authenticity whenever you notice you've drifted into performance, people-pleasing, or the exhausting attempt to be someone you're not. Each time you choose to return, the journey becomes easier, more natural, more joyful. Your authentic self is not a perfect self, it's a whole self. It includes your shadows and your light, your strengths and your vulnerabilities, your clarity and your confusion. It's the you that can hold all of your human complexity without needing to fix, hide, or change any part of it. As you drift towards sleep, feel how this quantum jump back to yourself continues to unfold. Your dreams will carry you deeper into this remembering, your unconscious mind weaving together the threads of who you've always been. You don't need to do anything but rest in the knowing that you are already whole, already perfect, already exactly who you were meant to be. Your breath becomes a gentle wave now, each exhale releasing another layer of false identity, each inhale drawing you deeper into the truth of your being. You are quantum jumping back to yourself with every breath, returning to the natural state of alignment that is your birthright. In the soft space between sleeping and waking, you carry with you this knowing that you are not separate from the source of your power, that your identity is not a prison but a play of consciousness. That alignment is simply what happens when fear no longer defines your reality, and in the quiet depths of your heart. What if you've always been exactly who you were meant to be, and the quantum jump back to yourself is simply the recognition of what was never lost? Your breath finds its most natural rhythm now, each inhale drawing you deeper into the recognition that you exist within an infinite field of possibility. Beyond the narrow bandwidth of fear, beyond the limited stories you've been telling yourself. About what's possible lies an expanse so vast that your mind cannot fully grasp it, but your heart knows, your body remembers, and in this gentle darkness, you begin to sense the true nature of your participation in the continuous creation of reality itself. Feel how your presence in this field is not passive, not accidental. Your very existence is an act of creation, a conscious vote for the reality you wish to inhabit. Every thought you think, every feeling you feel, every breath you take is a signal broadcast into the quantum field of infinite potential, shaping the very fabric of what becomes possible in your experience. The scientific truth that quantum physics reveals that you are not at the mercy of circumstances, but the conscious observer whose attention literally shapes reality begins to settle into your bones, not as concept, but as lived experience. Here, in this space of deep rest, you can feel the weight of this responsibility and the liberation it offers simultaneously. Your nervous system, wise beyond your conscious understanding, begins to reorganize around this recognition. The part of you that has been scanning for danger, hypervigilant and exhausted, starts to remember that you are not victim to a random universe, but participant in an intelligent field that responds to the quality of your attention with exquisite precision. Imagine, if you will, that your consciousness is like a tuning fork, resonating at whatever frequency you choose to embody. When you vibrate at the frequency of fear, you call forth experiences that match that resonance. When you vibrate at the frequency of love, of possibility, of trust, you invite a reality that reflects these deeper truths back to you tonight. As you rest in this knowing, you allow yourself to feel the vast expanse of potential that exists in every moment, not as future possibility, but as present reality. The quantum field doesn't recognize time as your mind does. In the realm of pure potential, every possibility exists simultaneously, waiting for your conscious attention to collapse it into manifest. Experience. Your heart field expands with each breath, creating space for realities that were previously unimaginable. This is not wishful thinking or spiritual fantasy. This is the fundamental nature of existence, itself fluid, responsive, alive with potential that seeks conscious direction through beings like you who are willing to participate in the miracle of creation. The quantum flow that moves through you is the same intelligence that moves the stars, that orchestrates the dance of galaxies, that guides the migration of birds across continents they've never seen. You are not separate from this intelligence. You are its local expression, its way of knowing itself through the unique lens of your individual consciousness. And here's what becomes available. When you truly understand this, the recognition that your thoughts and feelings are not random events happening to you, but creative forces flowing through you. Your consciousness is not a passive observer of reality, but an active participant in its continuous unfolding. Feel how your body begins to relax into this understanding. The tension that comes from believing you are at the mercy of circumstances dissolves into the recognition that you are the conscious observer whose attention shapes what becomes possible, not through force or manipulation, but through the simple act of choosing where to place your awareness moment by moment. This is the practice that transforms everything, returning to love instead of fear, returning to possibility instead of limitation, returning to trust instead of doubt. Not once, but again and again, breath by breath, choice by choice, moment by moment, your nervous system begins to entrain to this new frequency, the ancient part of your brain that has been interpreting uncertainty. As danger starts to recognize that uncertainty is actually the space where all possibility lives, the unknown becomes not a threat, but an invitation to participate in the continuous creation of reality. In this space of deep allowing, you begin to sense how your attention has been the most powerful force in your life, though you may not have recognized it as such. Every time you focused on what you feared, you strengthened its probability. Every time you focused on what you desired, you increased its likelihood. Every time you focused on love, you invited more love into your experience. But this is not about positive thinking or denying difficult emotions. This is about recognizing that your consciousness is the creative force through which the infinite field of possibility expresses itself. Your feelings, your thoughts, your very presence are the ways the universe knows itself and chooses its next expression. The quantum entanglement that connects you to all existence becomes palpable in this space, not as metaphor, but as felt experience. Your shifting internal state creates ripples in the field of possibility that extend far beyond your physical form, touching other lives, other realities, other dimensions of existence in ways your mind cannot fully comprehend. Your heart-brain coherence deepens as you rest in this recognition. The electromagnetic field generated by your heart, coherent and calm, broadcasts this new understanding into the quantum field of infinite potential. Reality itself begins to reorganize around your shifted frequency, creating space for experiences that were previously unavailable. And here's the profound truth that settles into your bones. You have never been separate from the source of all creation. You are not an isolated individual struggling against an indifferent universe. You are consciousness itself, temporarily focused through the lens of your individual experience, learning to trust its own creative power. The fear that once felt so overwhelming was simply the result of forgetting this truth. The anxiety that once paralyzed you was the natural response to believing you were powerless in a random universe. The depression that once felt endless was the experience of disconnection from your own creative nature. But now, in this space of deep remembering, you begin to feel the truth of your participation in the continuous creation of reality. Every breath you take is a choice. Every thought you think is a vote. Every feeling you feel is a signal broadcast into the infinite field of possibility. Your body, wise beyond your conscious understanding, begins to align with this new frequency. The cells of your being remember their connection to the larger intelligence that moves through all existence. The quantum coherence that governs atomic particles begins to express itself through the coherence of your own consciousness. This is not a mental understanding, but a lived experience of your true nature. You are not a small, separate self, trying to manipulate reality from the outside. You are the infinite field of possibility, knowing itself through the temporary focus of your individual awareness. The quantum flow that moves through you seeks expression through your unique gifts, your particular way of loving, your specific contribution to the evolution of consciousness itself. You are not here by accident. You are here by design, by the intelligence of the universe, choosing to know itself through the sacred vessel of your being. Feel how your entire system begins to recalibrate around this understanding. The chronic tension that comes from believing you are separate from the source of all creation begins to dissolve. The hypervigilance that comes from believing you are at the mercy of circumstances transforms into the gentle alertness of conscious participation. Your heart field, coherent and expanded, becomes a beacon broadcasting the frequency of conscious creation into the quantum field of infinite potential. And in response, reality itself begins to reflect back possibilities that were previously invisible, opportunities that were previously unavailable, connections that were previously impossible. The infinite field of possibility is not somewhere else, it is here, now, in this breath, in this moment, in this choice to return to love instead of fear. It is the space between thoughts, the pause between breaths, the stillness between heartbeats where all creation is born. You are not learning to access this field. You are learning to recognize that you have never been separate from it. You are not learning to influence reality. You are learning to trust the influence you have always had. You are not learning to become conscious. You are learning to remember that consciousness is what you are. As you rest in this knowing, feel how the very fabric of possibility begins to shimmer around you. The quantum field responds to your recognition of your true nature, creating space for expressions of life that were previously unimaginable. The universe itself celebrates your remembering, your return to conscious participation in the miracle of existence. What wants to emerge when you trust your participation in the infinite field of possibility? What becomes available when you recognize that your presence is a creative force shaping reality itself? What new expressions of love, of beauty, of consciousness seek manifestation through the sacred vessel of your being? Rest in these questions, letting them settle into the infinite field of your own awareness. Let your consciousness expand to meet the vastness of possibility that has always been your true home. Let your heart remember its connection to the source of all creation and trust completely in the intelligence that moves through you as you, fantastic, Let's execute your prompt precisely for your provided title.